Hey guys, good morning. Thank you so much for joining this session. I welcome you all. So, this is the second session we are doing on OpenAPI. So, the first session was on introduction to Azure OpenAPI. We spent time on Azure Studio, OpenAI Studio. I hope you guys are able to see my screen. So this is the studio on which we were working on, and we understood few of the fundamentals. And today we'll extend on top of this. So if you see the previous session, let me give you the links where you can find. This is my GitHub. Let me give you this. Okay, I'll give you this. And the next thing is the content for today's session will be under this. So this was the first session, May, and June session we are working on Postman, Python, notebook, and Python and C#. So we'll work with all these programming and tools with which we'll be able to communicate with Azure OpenAPI. So that's what we will be doing today. So let's first go and see. Let's do 1 minute quick recap. What did we do last time? In the last session, we just saw what is Azure OpenAPI and what is Azure AI Studio. And we spoke about what tokens are. We used the tokenizer tool to see how are we built, because everything is tokens. You see that here, the total tokens for which we are built is 239 tokens. That's what we are being built for. And here we can cap it, that maximum tokens which are allowed are 200. So all are interrelated. But tokens, we saw that the tokenizer, so they have an algorithm to split the given content into different tokens. Like if you see that there are 34 characters, but that has been split into 7 tokens. If you see that here, it including space, it is 6 characters, but here if this token, if you see that space me, so totally 3 characters. So they have some algorithm with which they split the number of characters or the content we give into tokens. And the tokens are the combination of what we give as input, what it generates as output. The combination of both is what we are getting billed for. And another thing we have seen is couple of trying our own completion. Apart from that, there are a bunch of examples. We tried 1 or 2, and I think we just started with this and then we stopped it. So let's see what is that we are going to do today. So in this session, we are going to try our own completion examples using Postman. And the next thing is we'll do this completions using a Python notebook. Technically, the Python notebook has been renamed as Jupyter, but we will be using this Python notebook. And then we'll use a different example. It's not the same example, it's a different example where we use Python, and then we'll try the same another sample. Everything is completion model. And the next session we will start with prompt engineering. What is prompt engineering and DALI also. So I just want to quickly show you DALI is pretty cool. I mean, we will not derail our situation, but we just need to a simple task we'll give it. Create apples with red, green, orange colors. Okay, so we're asking it to create different kinds of apples. So DALI it goes and it creates it. I just want to give you how cool it is, because yesterday I saw that and I just tried one. See this apple with orange color, and we can add yellow also, yellow, and just our imagination. How would that look? Apple with yellow and blue color. I don't know. So just wanted to check. There is an intern. Oh Jesus! This time it did do. I mean, let's see. Let's delete this and try one, and then we'll go back to our example. The first image was much better than this. I think I should have done better job in giving the prompt. That's what is prompt engineering. So we need to. Oh, this is much promising. I'm able to see almost real apple with this looks real apple skin, and this also. But see that yellow color apples. It's all our imagination. How do we create the prompts it generates? Okay. Now let's come back to our session. So as I was mentioning, the entire code, source code is here. Did I give it to you guys? Yes, speaker series. So I gave this. So let's come back and let's start working on today's session. So the first thing is I have given the Postman collection also. I've given the Postman collection. Also, I've given the environment. So inside the environment, what you should do is you should change these values. Okay, so the Open API key, and you have to replace with that, and this Open API resource, the API version, and the model name. And this one we already spoke in the previous session, but I will have to do a quick refresher on that. So if you see the deployment model, text hyphen Davinci hyphen 003 hyphen dev hyphen 001. So that's the name I've given. So even though they call it as completion models, it's the deployment name. If you come to this deployments, you see that actually the model name is this one, text Davinci 003. But what we have to give, or the input we are asking, is text Davinci 003. So always remember that. Okay. And when we try this, how do you know what is that rest of the pieces? I'll tell you that. So if you go here, Open API key, that's the only thing which it doesn't show on the screen because that's a secret. So apart from that, you see the URL, Azure OpenAPI Dev 001. Where do you get this name from? So if you go to the resources where you have deployed it, so the name which you create for that resource, you see this Azure OpenAI Dev 001 under cognitive service, under Azure OpenAI, we can create a new Azure OpenAI resources and do another set of experiments, maybe in West US or a different team. Two different teams are working. We might create multiple resources, Azure OpenAPI resources. So that's the name which you should give it. When you click on this, it comes here, and here you have different models where you can manage. And the key thing is under overview, the endpoint is this one. So where do you get endpoint? Under cognitive services, on the left nav, you have Azure OpenAPI. When you click on the resource Azure OpenAPI, on the overview pane, you will get this. And if I come back here, and this is the name of the resource. And that's when you click, you get it from the overview. So two pieces has been solved. One is the OpenAPI base URL. You will get it from the cognitive service. When you click on this, the resource, that resource is a base URL. And what is the completion model? This is the completion model, but technically it is the model deployment name. Whatever the models which we deploy inside that, that's the name of that. Let me go back and show you that real quick. When I come in here to the deployments, you see that the deployment name. What is the deployment name? Text DaVinci 003. That's the model name it is. Text DaVinci 003. Okay. And what is the Open API version? So that I did Google and found it, but we don't need to do that. What happens is when you try any of the examples in the studio and click on the view code, there itself they specify the OpenAPI versions. Or else you can do a Google of that. OpenAPI API versions. So you can come in here. So you can refer anything. So here is where you find that like this. There are new models also, but it will be in this format: year, month, date. So this is the completion models. This is what we are working on now in today's session. So we can use the version. Let me stick to the same previous version because I don't want to do any last moment changes. This is in preview. So whatever we are using is 221201. 221201. This is one. This is 23 preview, and I think this is the new one. Let's stick to the game plan because I tested all the samples with this. So let me stick to the game plan. First thing is we have to create a Postman request as well as Postman. You can have multiple collections. We will add a lot of things to the same collection, but at least for the time being, understand that we need to have an environment also, because some of the secrets which you don't want to expose, we will keep it here. At least I'll show you from the image perspective, how does it look? The two things I've given: the Postman collection and the environment also. So if you see here, first thing is import the Postman environment and collection. How do you do that? So we can go to the file menu and you need to import. So once you import, I've given those Postman collection and environment files here in this folder. You can import. Once you import, you need to go to the collection and modify the values appropriately. You know that where do we get this? Under cognitive service, under OpenAPI resource, you'll get this under the overview pane. In that pane, you'll get it. And completion models is the deployment name, and this is the version. And the key is the one which I'm not showing right now because I'm using that. Okay, so let's do our first request. So some of the things will let's spoil and see how does it look. Okay. So we asked one question, which is the tallest building in the world? So it made this call to the text model and it brought the answer. And answer is Burj Khalifa in Dubai, United Arab Emirates, is currently the tallest building, and it is giving the details. And let me go back and add the second question also. Second question I'm telling, I mean, we need to give proper information. See, that adding to the first question, I'm asking another question, which is the tallest building in Hyderabad. I'm not giving any other information apart from that, and I click on that. So if you see that signature towers, I don't really know that there is a signature towers in India, Hyderabad. So I added India specifically, and I again executed. Now it gives Cyber Pearl, Cyber Towers. And let me try another time. See what is that it is giving. Now it says that Gachibowli Towers. So we need to understand how we should specify. Okay, you're saying Hyderabad, that's a big place. So you want to narrow down to some area, and it need to have go and look into the information which is available. So based on that, it will bring it. Okay. So if I come here and I can say reduce the max tokens to 50. So the completion tokens is 50, the prompt tokens is 29, and total tokens for which we are built is 79 tokens. And you see that we got very less content. And another thing is, you see the finish reason, it says that length. So it's giving us an int saying that, hey, you said you fixed some of the tokens. I can't pass that token. So whatever the length you have specified, 50 tokens is this much of string as an output. I can't go anything further. So suppose let's try making it 80 tokens and execute it. So see this, the completion token is 63. In fact, we said 80, but here if you see that the finish region is stopped, that means it executed it completely and it stopped. So it says that the completion tokens is 63. Let's make it as a 65 and rerun the sample again. So now if you see that, oh, that's, this time it is giving another example. So let me stay still at max tokens as 80. Now, whenever it says that stop, the finish reason is stop, that means it executed completely without any restrictions it is giving us. So it's good. Okay. And that's the one experiment which we wanted to do. We did that. So this is the first thing. There are 4 samples which I have piled up for today. So we did the first sample where we tried our own completion using the Postman. So I have created the Postman collection as well as the Postman environment. So only thing is the values where you'll get it, the base API URL, the completion model, and the API version I've given it. Only thing is key you need to generate and modify in your environment file. Here it is there. This is an environment file you need to modify, except that everything should remain same. So you need to import. I'm showing where the files are. You need to import those files, and when you select this icon and click on edit, so that's where it displays this. You need to change the API key. Apart from that, I already showed that where you get this, where you get this, where you get this. This is you're getting it from the overview pane of the OpenAI resource under cognitive services, and there's the deployment name, and this is an API version we have seen in the URL. Then a completion request, we tried this, and Skyview Towers, and every time it is giving different things. Maybe that's where again the prompt engineering will come, that we will start in the next session. So next session will be little bit advancing ourselves to do a mini project. So we can ask this question ourselves: hey, what should I do after doing this? I said that give me the tallest building, or give me the gold prize for today. What should I do with that? So that's where mini projects will come into picture. So let's create some kind of mini project where we will say that what is the top five food of Telangana, and what is the top five food of Kerala, what is the top five food of something else, like that. We can create and store that in a database, SQL or SQL Server, SQLite, and then expose an API, put it in an UI. Wow, that's a pretty good mini project for us to do. And we'll learn the prompt engineering along with that, and try to create a mini project. We'll see how much we'll be able to success it, but that's where it really makes sense to start using the power of the completion request. Okay, so now let's go and see the Python, how to execute our own completion request using Python notebook. So if I come back to this one and I'll search for IPYNB. Okay, so that's an extension. So IPYNB file extension, that is initially called as Python. Jupyter Notebook was formerly named IPython Notebook. That is the reason you can see that IPYNB is an extension for that. And now then it's being called as a Jupyter Notebook. And you can come in here, Jupyter Notebook. That's jupyter.org. And you want to try, you can click on this. And from the Jupyter Lab, you have it from this one also, but the Jupyter Lab is another one where you can create your own own Jupyter notebooks, and then you can start working on this one. Okay, whatever you wanted, you can create it with the with this one. I mean, they've given some samples, and each of this cell can be individually executed. Like you can see this, and you can execute this cell. So once you execute that cell, it goes to the next cell. Then you can execute that cell, and then you do it. So like this, you can execute each and individual cells, and you can create a nice graph here. Okay, it gives you an flexibility to execute it. So you can use this, or you can install Jupyter Notebook on our local box. Or another way we can do is using creating the IPY NB file. So this is the one. Okay, so that's one thing. And the second thing is we will see there are OpenAI request and Python dot env. Those are few things. But before proceeding further, I just wanted to step back and tell you whatever is there here in the studio. The good thing is you can click on view code. When you click on view code, it gives us JSON, Python, C sharp. Like I copied this Python and took it from here. So where I can get this one, and here also we can get this version number. Okay, this is other place where you can get the version number. So first thing is how can we get it for the REST APIs if you want to use using the Postman. Now the next thing is the Python. So I just selected the drop down and just copied this and did slight modifications, not much. So let's see that. So before going further, we have to learn about few things. Let's see here. We are importing this OpenAPI and this request and there's something known as .env. What all these things? So first let's understand that and then we'll come back to the code. So you can see Python, AI Python. This is one of the OpenAI's library, and you can see the license also. What is this license? MIT license. And you see we need to do a pip install OpenAI, and then we can start using like whatever the different libraries which are available under OpenAPI. There's a lot of libraries. We'll come and we'll learn at least some of those things and what all the things we have to assign. It shows it. That's one thing. And the second thing I wanted to show is like PyPy, like the packaging source from where we can download this. As we have NuGet packages for C Sharp and npm for Node. Okay, so similarly for Python we have PyPy. Okay, Python packages. So we need to do a pip install of OpenAI. And another thing what we are using is request and Python .env. So let's see this request and let's see .env for 1 minute and then we'll start our sample. So you can see the description here. You can go to the GitHub and see more information there. So this is the OpenAI Python library provides the convenient access to the OpenAPI. Okay, we can write everything from scratch, but already someone has created a library. We can, instead of reinventing the wheel, we can go and reuse it. And similarly, you can see this request. So you can import the request and do a get post or whatever it is and get the status code and other headers. We can do that. Pretty simple sample. This is an HTTP library. And we have another library we are using is Python-.NET env. .NET env we would have used it in our TypeScript and JavaScript Node.js projects. And also, if I'm not wrong, I've used it in React.js also. Yeah, I used it in React.js also, .env files. And .env files should not be checked in to the source repository, because that's where it's equivalent to the app settings.json in .NET world. So to move those things to a variables. So let's see, this is very simple. I have already uh, executed that. Okay, here also we can create multiple cells, but I just put it everything here in one place. So what are we doing is we are importing OpenAI and request, and we are importing the .env, and we are saying that env values, and we have to give the path. That file is here. I'm not touching, but I've given you an example.env. So you know that there's the model name, there's the base URL, and there's an API version. This should be your key. And actually, you need to write it here in this .env. I'm not clicking on that. So when you come back here, you can create new cells and write it, but I wrote everything in the single cell. And what we can do is I can click on this run, and let me clear all the outputs, and let's click and run. See, here we are getting the deployment name, OpenAPI base URL, OpenAPI key, this is here, and OpenAPI version. These three values we are assigning. And here we are creating the complete URL. It's almost similar. It's almost similar to this URL. If you see that OpenAPI base URL here, OpenAPI base URL, and this string literal, then the deployment model name, completions API version, and this completion API version, and this exactly the same, no different. And we are creating the prompt and assigning it here. The only difference is the prompt here. We put it here, or we can create a variables in the variables here in this collection. Here also we can go ahead and create the variables here in this collection, or you can have it there in the environment and put it here, right? So we created a prompt and assigned it. Here we are using few other things, but here it's simple, like temperature is 0, max tokens is 100, and we have added the headers, and we are passing the request.post, the URL, and the JSON data and headers. Okay, inside the headers we have an API key, and we response object.json. It is giving us the JSON here, and we are printing the completion choices. So let's execute it, completion choice. And if completion choice finish reason content filter, then generated content is filtered. So let's see, we'll execute. So once we execute, it takes some time. It took 3.8 seconds, and our query was, tell me two jokes on intelligent people. Okay, so it is giving us. Now, how do you know that the completions object has got choices array, and inside that I need to go into 0? So let's try that. Here, before that, we'll print the entire completion itself. When you print the entire completion, you see this, the completion, we got the entire object itself. So you see that choices, you have choices here. So in this choices, where is this? Okay, this is the one. Let me copy and create a new file. drop it here, and let's select JSON, and okay, it was able to parse it. But technically, if you see that, where were those choices? Yeah, here. If you see this, oh, that's because of the single quotes. No problem. So if you see the choices itself is an array, and inside that we got text, and that text, this is an echo, and that was the echo. I mean the query what we have asked, and first thing it says that this is the first joke, and its answer is this, and the second question is this, and its answer is this. Okay, that's it. Like here, finish reason. So if you dig deeper, usage also it is another object where it says that tokens and prompt and other things. So that's how you need to debug to find out what is that which is coming out. Okay, we can do a debug to find out. Okay, let's see this run line by line. Okay, Con- okay, cell below. Let's check this. Let's wait. But executed everything. Execute cell and below. This cell and below. For some reason, I am facing a problem. But anyways, we know that we have to execute it, and we will see the output. Now, if you want to debug using this print, we'll know we can use it. But I think that's a very good thing to know that what is that entire object which has come, and this is echo true. That is the reason we are getting the same question. Whatever the question we have asked, it will be part of the response also. Suppose if I don't want, I let me clear the output and now execute this again. Now here, if you see that, it directly giving the answers. It didn't print the question which we have asked. Now on innocent, tell me two jokes on innocent people. So we'll see what it generates that. So what did the innocent person say when he was accused of stealing? I'm innocent. So I don't know, but that was a joke which it's generating. Okay, that's cool. So we have seen the second sample with the Python notebook. So here we have to install this pip install, and then we need to create a env file with the details, and then we can copy paste the code and modify according to our requirement. Okay, the same sample, how will we executing it if we want to do it from the Python, not from the Jupyter notebook or Python notebook? Again, the same thing here. the env. Now there'll be little bit different, a small difference here. First is I'm going to the terminal here, and rest of the packages, whatever we are doing is same. There's no difference. The only thing is here we'll create a virtual environment. We don't want to go ahead and install these packages globally. So we will create this at the local package. I mean within the environment. So what do we do here? First thing is let's go back to this one, and we'll create a the virtual environment. We need to do a pip install of this because it's already installed. So it will create that. It says that requirement already satisfied. So this is already there. So I'm inside the second sample, and then I'm telling that Python create a virtual environment. I'm executing this command. The moment we execute this command, you see this, the virtual environment name will appear on the left side. Okay, so we just created it. So after creating that, you can go into that virtual environment and you see there are include lib and scripts, some other things are there. So you see this script is bash. So if you're executing in shell script, you can use this bash file. In from Windows command prompt, you can use this bat file. And you want to use the PowerShell, you can use this activate. So you can use different things based on your environment, whether you're using the shell script or the batch file or the PowerShell. So all those things will be under the folder. Okay. Now we need to come back where we created. This was the place. And the next thing what we have to do is, right now you're here. Now within the folder, you need to click on activate. So click on activate. The moment we activate, you see that the virtual environment name will appear. That means right now you're not in your main folder, you're inside the virtual environment. Like if I do pip freeze, so that shows that what all the libraries, because I already pre-created it. If not, it will be an empty list. Like if you do pip freeze, you will not see anything. And another thing what we can do is deactivate. We can deactivate the Python virtual environment. So because last night I did it, so that's the reason we are seeing this one. So then we will install here. So right now you're outside the virtual environment. Now if you install anything, that will be installed as a global. So what you need to do is we need to come back to the virtual environment. So activate the virtual environment. So if I say pip install OpenAI, because I already installed these three, it says that already requirements satisfied. So how do we know that? Another way is pip freeze. If you do pip freeze, you should see request is already there. And somewhere we need to have OpenAPI is there and Python.env. All these three packages are already there. This is our virtual environment. Apart from that, other related packages are also there. Okay. And suppose if you want to know that what all the things which are required. So what we can do is pip freeze, pipe it to requirements.txt. So what it does is all the packages which are required, it will write it into this. So people can go and directly install this instead of pip install A, pip install B, pip install C. Instead of telling to install A, B, C, all the packages, they can directly install this. Okay. So that being said, we create a env file, and here I've given an example env. It's the same, and we are executing the same. We are executing the same uh, same code. It's nothing new. So we just execute it, and oh, the path here. Let me close this windows. Okay, so completions demo. Actually, I should have created the VS code. See, it's coming, and and innocent folks. It's giving the same jokes. Okay, so we have seen the third example, and the fourth example is to redo the same thing using C sharp. So for that also we'll come back to this one and click on this, and here you will see the C sharp version of the code. Here we can pick up and then we can modify that. So let me show that C sharp version of the code. I mean, this is a simple one, but in the next month session, what we will do is we will create a mini project using this. At this point of time, I don't want to commit anything, but definitely we will be doing mini project, at least a mini, because here we are creating, we are getting the response. What should we do with that? Isn't it? So we'll see one of the example here. Here, I just created a very small program. I mean, I just copied and customized it. Nothing new I did it. It's just Microsoft's code. So I'm executing it. So this is a .NET 7 console application. I've added an app settings. So, but in app settings, I didn't give any keys. I used the secrets JSON. So secrets JSON exists. If I go to manage secrets, it exists outside the code. Now, one thing I have to do is get these package references. Another thing is because I need to read the configuration either from app settings or from secrets JSON. So for that, what we will do is we create the configuration builder and set the base path. And one more important point is, if you see, the app settings should be as a content. So suppose if I say that do not copy or don't have this configuration, and if I execute it, it will throw error, because the app settings JSON will not be copied to that. Maybe if it has a local copy already, it will not throw error. But generally, if you don't change its settings to content and change its settings to content and copy if newer, or copy always, whatever makes sense, you can add it. So I just keep it copy if newer. So that is a mandatory requirement in console application at least. So that means when it is building, it copies the app settings JSON to the bin folder. Okay, we'll come to the this one little later. In the meanwhile, let's see that. Let's come in here and go to the bin folder, debug, .NET 7. Here is that app settings file. So if you don't select that option, that means it will not be copied into the bin folder and you will get errors. So what we are doing is we want to read the content from the secrets.json or from the app settings file or the combination of both. Something which is not secret, you can put it in the app settings. Something which is secret, we can put it in the program secrets.json. That's what we have seen that. So here we are reading the OpenAPI key and endpoint and the deployment model. And these all are the libraries which we can get deep into that to see what is that they have created. I mean, when we have time, we can go deep into the weeds to find out how many ways we can instantiate the OpenAPI client and what is this response like get completions. It gives the response of completions and how that data structure has been designed. Okay, so internally we see that he's getting a HTTP message and then he's processing the message and then he's creating this response. We can get in deep into the weeds of this to find out what this response is and how it is being done. When we have time, we can go deep dive into this to find out, but at least for today we create a client, and this client dot get completion streaming async. So when we do that, so it goes and get the completion options. So prompt inputs is this one. Here a big message, we're asking it to summarize some of the paragraph. So that we are specifying. And here we are getting the response, streaming completion, and then get completion async. Okay, so we are getting the response of that, and then we are putting it here under the completions object, and then we are going into the choices. We have seen in the Python program that what choices are, and then select text, and we know that that's an array and it traverses. Okay, oh, it's not this. I think there was another example. I opened the wrong one. I'm sorry. Yeah, this is the one which I prepared. Yeah, correct. This one. So I was saying it was not matching. So see this. This is one. What are the top 10 countries with highest populations? That is for the next month's sample. So this is today's sample. So we have this. We are asking, and it loops through it and it prints. And one thing you observe that I'm not writing console.writeLine, console.readKey. I will give you a tip of that. So I asked, give me the top 10 countries with highest population and along with their population count and capital city like China, 1.4 billion, Beijing, India 1.3 billion, New Delhi, United States 328 million, Washington DC. Like this, it has given. But I asked for 10, but it stopped at 7 because the tokens we capped it to 80. Let's see whether 100 tokens are enough. because we can get into the response, the completion response. Even 100 is not enough. So what we will do is we'll make it to 120. Okay, there you go. So we got it. And another thing is, when we go and manage secrets, knowingly or unknowingly, I exposed my key. Now I have to delete the model. I will delete it. If you go and look at it, the thing, it is outside the code. So whatever we store it in secrets, it will not be saved into the repository. So this is how we store it. Let me come back here. Now I need to go and delete this deployment. Select it, delete. I thought that it will not expose this key, but it exposed. Anyways, I deleted that. I'll have to recreate at some other time. I will do it. So that's it, folks, for today. And in the next month episode, we'll start with the prompt engineering. We'll see different examples. We can take either the C sharp or Python or Rest or the Studio itself. We have five options. We can check with Studio, we can check with Rest in Postman, we can check with Jupyter or Python notebook or Jupyter notebook using plain Python and C sharp. So we know how to play with Azure OpenAPI, Azure OpenAI in five different ways: Studio, Postman, Python notebook, plain Python program, and C sharp program. And the best practices, what we are using is we are storing, when we are executing it in Postman, we are using environment variables. Anyways, I just deleted that. Now I can show the Postman environment also, because that is invalid right now. So this is how it will be when you click on that Postman, the environment variable in Postman. You will see the OpenAPI key. This is an invalid. I deleted this, but it will be like this. You can create it. So when we are using it in Postman, we create the environment and store these secrets there. When we are using the Python notebook or a Jupyter notebook, both are same interchangeably, but it has been renamed. So when we use the Python notebook or Python program, we use it in .env files and never ever check in the env files, as I did example.env. Create an example.env file where you show the structure and explain what has to be created. And I've given the Postman collection, including the environment, and similarly for Python notebook as well as for Python program, I've given the env files. Please use that and try it your own. And then I've shown the simple C sharp program. I mean, the same simple code we executed in five different ways, using Studio, using Postman, Python notebook, Python program, and C sharp. When coming to the C sharp, create a CS file and get those NuGet packages and load the configuration, because we can't hard code our secrets inside the C sharp code. So we will use app settings, but we will not write any secret values there. Then why are we creating this app settings? App settings we are creating just for our colleagues or some other person who wants to use it. They should know that what all the configuration values they need it for that reason. But we definitely use the secrets.json, which is stored outside the source. So it is no harm even when we are trying to save it. Okay, so that's it, folks. And Let's catch up in the next month episode where we will be starting with the prompt engineering, like customizing. We'll see a few other options, and then at least try a small mini project. So the first idea what I'm getting is whatever the prompt engineering completions we are getting it, why don't we store it in the SQLite file or SQL Server? I'll see what is the simplest way to do it, one or two ways, or at least one way simplest. Store it in a SQLite and let the C# API. Python will add a Python program to do a prompt completion, get the response, store it in a SQLite file, and minimal API reads it the same database and displays it, something like that. At least the first portion, if it is possible, I'll do it. So thank you so much for joining. Please subscribe to .NET Learners House channel. Have a good rest of the day. See you.